When we think about certifications, ISO is a big deal. ISO is the International Standards Organization, made up of members from countries all around the world, and it writes standards for darn near everything that we use in the modern world. There are many standards. And by the way, ISO is not an acronym. It's made up of countries from all around the world with people speaking all kinds of languages. And so when it was organized, the founders decided they would not use acronyms because you would have a different acronym in some different languages, and they didn't want to privilege one language over the other. So they chose this Greek word ISO, a Greek word which means equal. And that's the name of the organization. It does not stand for anything. Well, anyway, one of the many standards that ISO writes is a thing called environmental management. And this group of standards is ISO 14000. It is similar to a standard you might have encountered before, ISO 9000, which manufacturing companies sometimes use. Both ISO 9000 and ISO 14000 have this general guideline. In order to get certified, the idea is you say what you do, and then you do what you say. So that means you make a plan in detail for how you're going to do whatever it is your organization does. You write it in a plan, and then you follow that plan. And when you get certified under, let's say, ISO 14000, auditors will check to see, do you have a plan? And then are you following that plan? So they don't tell you what has to be in your plan. They just say, have one and follow it. And you have to demonstrate in great detail that you are following it. Here is the list of standards in the ISO 14000 family. So you can see there are some general guidelines, some labeling, life cycle assessment. Down here is the greenhouse gas inventory protocol, and so forth. And at the very bottom here is auditing. Let's think about labeling just a little bit. That's the 14020 category. And there are three general types of environmental labels, also known as eco labels. Type 2 is the one that doesn't do much. Type 2 is a label where the manufacturer makes its own declarations about its own self. And these declarations are not measurable. They're just nice words. And there's probably, if they're not measurable, there's probably no way to verify that this is true. So examples include labels that say, all natural, good for the environment, stuff like that. That's a type 2 label. It's basically marketing and sometimes greenwashing. The other two kinds of labels involve what's called third-party verification. Both Type 1 and Type 3 do that. And third-party verification means there's a separate agency, separate organization, not related to your business at all. They're totally independent, and their business is going around to other organizations and auditing their plans and their data to verify that they do what they say they will do. Type 1 is perhaps the most common. Type 3 is similar, but it's more rigorous. It involves a full life cycle assessment, and in the next lecture we'll look at what that means. Well, certifications and eco-labels are proliferating like crazy. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of them popping up all over the world, like new plants in the spring. And we're still waiting for all of them to sort themselves out. But there are some certifications that appear to be solid, and you may have run into some of these. The Sustainability Consortium is a big consortium of manufacturers. They have a rigorous reporting system and assessment system with lots of data. Fair Trade, you may have heard of, that's the certification system that certifies the social equity and economic opportunity piece of sustainability. So they verify that people who do the work under healthy conditions with fair labor practices, they get paid well, so on and so forth. Let's now look at the one in the middle here, the FSC, or Forest Stewardship Council. This is the one that you will run into when you're dealing with both paper and wood products, and this relates to green building stuff. So Forest Stewardship Council is about promoting sustainable management of forests. And if you look at their mission statement, to promote environmentally appropriate, socially beneficial, and economically viable management of the world's forests, you see there that sustainability triple bottom line that we looked at the first day of class, the three pillars of sustainability: environmental sustainability, social equity, and economic opportunity. So there they are, built into this mission statement. FSC certification requires third-party verification, and primarily certification is done by a group called the Rainforest Alliance, and there's a whole series of criteria that a forest system must meet in order to be certified. And this list is a little misleading. It's not that you have to use chemicals, it's that you don't use chemicals, and that you don't do clear cutting, and that you maintain, this is really key, the function of a naturally evolving forest, which is what an old growth forest tends to be, with all the complex niches and interrelationships that a healthy forest has. You have to manage for stream health, that's what riparian means, and look at these last two important pieces: social equity and economic survival. Those must all be addressed in order to be certified. Then there's a chain of custody requirement. Once a forest is certified FSC, then that wood is harvested, it's put on a truck. Well, who knows where that truck came from or is going? You have to have a certificate verifying that this certified wood was officially handed off to the logistics company. Then when it goes to the mill, that chain of custody certificate follows it, and then when it goes to the marketplace and it's sold, that chain of custody certificate follows it. So this prevents nefarious actors from getting in there and claiming that they're selling FSC certified wood and claiming a price premium when in fact it's not. So chain of custody is very important. You see FSC certification on products, so it might be on the end of a piece of lumber or on the side of a box of paper. It's possible for companies to become certified, which is a little bit more rigorous, even more rigorous, but once a company is certified, it can then apply the FSC logo to its products. An important part of FSC certification is these other two legs of the sustainability three pillars or triple bottom line: the social equity and economic opportunity piece. And to that end, a couple of things. First of all, participatory governance. What that means is that people who do the work, people who work in the forests, people who manage the forests, including smallholders, participate in setting the rules for certification. It's participatory. And what you see here in these pictures is representatives of smallholders in various countries and counties and cities and so forth, participating in this rule-making process. And these rules are updated regularly. Then, related to equity, it's very important to the FSC, to the Council, that the Global South be represented fairly. And the Global South is one term that we use for countries in the Southern Hemisphere. And I will just say that Global South is a disputed term, so I use that carefully. What I'm talking about is countries in the Southern Hemisphere who tend to be ignored when it comes to global policy making. So FSC is striving to include people from that part of the world. It's not easy. There are more people in the Northern Hemisphere and they tend to speak up more, but they're trying. Finally, there are other sustainable forestry certifications out there, and probably the alternative one that you see most often is this one, SFI, Sustainable Forestry Initiative. You'll see this on boxes of paper, for example. This is an industry trade group, and here's some nice words: good for you, good for our forests. This industry trade group originally had so-called certification, and this was an ISO Type 2 label, self-declaration, that did not have third-party verification. And they got a lot of pushback on that, so now they do have third-party verification. Nevertheless, when you look at the kinds of things that get verified, as you see in this list here, you will notice that this is not related to social equity, economic opportunity, or ecological health. It's related to other stuff, and that other stuff can get certified, but it's not necessarily a sustainably managed forest. So I just cue you in, watch out for that. You can get a lead point for using FSC wood. If you're doing Living Building Challenge, all your wood must be FSC certified, and SFI doesn't play into it at all. So for lead and for living building, FSC either gets you points or is required.